Welcome to another Tech Help video brought to you by AccessLearningZone.com. I'm your instructor, Richard Rost. Got a good one for you today, folks. We're going to discuss timestamps and why they aren't always what they appear to be. And even though you think you're adding a second, this can happen. Look at that. And I'll explain why a little bit later. But this is part 46 of my fitness database series. Whether or not you care about fitness, this is a database series about making cool databases, and I'm teaching all kinds of cool tips and tricks, including today about timestamps. So let's get into it. If you haven't watched parts 1 through 45, I strongly recommend you go watch those first. But you don't have to. You should, but you don't have to. All right, so in our food log, we have the ability to add a meal, let's say. Let me pick a meal, and I'll hit add. And it brings all these in at the exact time, right? Because it did now just switch from 5 o'clock to 5:01. And if we look at the meal log, let's take a look down here at the bottom. All right, we've got that code in there that adds a second when we're adding in from a meal. But I want something a little more robust that also works when we're adding just by copying items or by typing them in. So I don't necessarily like that loop counter that we built in the last one of the last couple classes. All right, so let's get rid of this here. So what I want to do is let's go into the code and let's find where we have that loop counter thingy. The loop counter thingy, it's a technical term. It's a loop counter thingy. All right, so it's add to log right here. And it's going to be add meal to log, right? And here it is with a counter. And we're sending into the add food item to log. We're sending in that counter as an offset for the number of seconds to add, which is a little cheesy. It works, but it's cheesy. What I want to do instead, I think a better, more robust solution that will also work in different places in the database too, is instead of this seconds offset, let's update proper log date time so it checks for duplicates first. And if there is a duplicate at that exact time index, add a second to it, right? And we can get rid of all this seconds offset stuff. See, sometimes after I write some code, and you'll find this out as a developer too, after I stew on it for a day or two and I think about it and it bothers me, my brain comes up with a better solution. And this also gives me a method to teach you guys something really cool about date times and access. All right, so let's start by now. We're not going to do too much to change this guy. This guy works. But at the very end of this guy, we're going to essentially look and see if this date already exists, if this date time already exists, and if so, add a second to it. Now, I don't like to make one single function too complicated, so let's make a second function up here that does just that. We'll send in a date time, and then we'll look in the table to see if there's another exact record on that exact date time. We'll call this public function safe food date time, and we'll send in a date and it will return a date. And let's make this by val so we don't accidentally change the date coming in, because you might not want to do that. Okay, so we're going to look up a log ID item from the table, so we'll need a log ID, or it's food log ID, sorry, food log ID as along. We'll need a date to return, and if the date to return isn't valid, if there's already something else on that date time, we'll increment it 1 second. So we'll say date to return as a date. And for our loop, we'll need to know if it's okay to exit the loop or not, because we're going to keep looping until we're going to keep adding a second until we loop, until we find a date time slot that's blank, basically. Right? Is there something at 9 o'clock in 1 second? Yep. All right. Is there something at 9 o'clock in 2 seconds? Yep. Is there something at 9 o'clock at 3 seconds? No. Okay, good. We're okay to exit. Okay to exit the loop. Okay. All right. So we're going to start off date to return as the date that's sent in. So start off, we're going to try to see if the date that you want to put it on is good. If it is, no work to do, right? So okay to exit equals false. We're gonna prime our loop, and we're gonna say while not okay to exit, because we have to do it at least once, right? And then when. All right. So in the loop, what are we doing? Well, we're gonna look in the table and see if there is a record at that exact date time. So food log ID equals NZ, because if it returns a null, we want it to change it to a 0, right? DLOOKUP, we're looking up a food log ID from the food log table, where the food date time equals whatever was sent in, which in this case right now is date to return. Close up the date, close up the DLOOKUP, comma 0. All right, so take the date we sent, which now becomes date to return. All right, look that up in the table, see if there's another record with that exact date. All right, now, if food log ID equals 0, that means it's not found. Right? Oh, then no record found. So we're okay to exit equals true. Else, we're going to add a second to the date to return. Date to return equals date add. We're going to actually use date add for this one. Seconds, comma 1, comma, date to return. Date to return. And then end if. Okay? So, is there something at 1 second? Yep. Loop. Is there something at 2 seconds? Yep. Loop. Is there something at 3 seconds? Nope. Okay to exit is true. We come down here. And now we can say the name of our function equals date to return. Just like that. All right. Save it. Now, if you want to test this using the immediate window, right? You can grab this guy, put question mark, and then put something in here like, 2025, 01, 01. But you're going to get subber function not defined because this has to be in a global module for the immediate window to work with it. Okay? And this guy, as I wrote it, could fit in a global module. So I'm just going to cut it out, and I'm going to paste it in there. So we'll come down here, we'll put it in the global module, and we'll drop it down here at the end. Okay, and then now you can test it with that date, and it brings back that exact date. Now, try testing it with something that's in the table. Let's find something that's in the food log T, and here's a good one. We'll test with this date, at that date time. All right, just stick it in here, and then I'll press enter. And look at that. It brought back 1 second after 2 o'clock. So we know it's working. Right? Okay, so we're good. And we can leave it here. It's not going to hurt anybody in the global module. Save it. Give it a good debug compile. Now if we go back to this guy, proper log date time. This guy just goes and makes sure that everything is good. Right, if you're on a different day, it does all that fixing. But at the very end of this one, we're going to say proper log date time equals that function we just wrote, safe food date time of proper log date time. So it'll basically take the date that you now ended up with, right, and then just check to make sure it's not already in the table. And if it is, increment it by a second. Okay? Okay. Now we can go to that add item to food log and get rid of this dumb seconds offset. This is no longer needed. I wouldn't say dumb. It works, but it's kind of limited. We will have some problems with it later with some other stuff that I wanted. I discovered this when I was playing around with something else. I'm like, well, we need it for other things like copying items between days and things like that. We get some problems. So we'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of the seconds offset stuff here. We don't need any of this. Right? Because now proper log date time just handles that. Okay. And then in the add meal to log, which is, where is that? Add meal to log. Where are you? There you are. Okay, we can get rid of the counter out of here. We don't need this counter anymore. We can get rid of that. We can get rid of that. And we can get rid of the counter equals counter plus 1. We don't need a counter. We just add the items, and the function itself will automatically increment that seconds counter. All right, let's give it a test. Save it, debug, compile. Everybody compiles. Let's close it, close it, close it, open it. And let's add that meal again. Ready, go. Okay, everything looks good. There's 5 new items. It is now 5:13. Let's take a look in the log table. Come down to the bottom. And, oh, wait a minute. What's going on? What happened? 527, 528, 528, 528, 528. What's going on here? Well, the problem is that now doesn't just return that value to the seconds. Now is actually a floating point number. Okay? So the exact value that you get is going to be 513.28.326. Right? If you actually look at what's in that value. Now returns milliseconds as well. And it doesn't display it there, but they're in there. Okay? So what we have to do for this to work properly is we have to chop off those milliseconds. And I've gotten emails from people before. In fact, I think I did a video years ago. I think it's one of my developer lessons, where a student was like, I'm trying to do a comparison to see if there's another record at the same time, and it says there isn't, but I can clearly see that there is. Yeah, because you can't see the milliseconds there. Now, Access doesn't normally have an easy way to view those milliseconds. You can calculate it, you can figure it out. You could do what we're going to do, which is to isolate just the hours, minutes, and seconds, and then subtract that from the value in the field, and then you can display the milliseconds. It's a pain in the butt. If you guys want to see how to get milliseconds, let me know. For most business databases, you'll never need it. But if you're doing comparisons, if you're checking equalities and stuff to see if it's equal to this exact time like we're doing, then you need to be able to do this. Okay, so we have to isolate that out and get rid of the milliseconds. So let's go back to our code, which is going to be in the global module. This guy. Right? The first thing we're going to do is chop off the milliseconds. Chop off milliseconds from that D value, right? So date to return, let me take you, is going to be equal to, we're going to use date serial and build the date based on what's sent in. So it's going to be date serial. I got a whole separate video on date serial if you don't know what that is. All right, there's date serial and time serial. I'll give you the slides. Hold on. Here's date serial, right? You can put it together based on the year, month, and day. And I don't have a separate tech help video for time serial, but it works basically the same way. And I cover it in Access Expert level 28. So date serial takes the year, which is going to use the year function, right, to separate the year out of a date, the year of D, comma, the month of D, comma, the day of D, right? And then we're going to add to that, next line, I'm going to tap over here, time serial, which is the hour of D, the month of D, and the second of D. Just one. What did I do? Nope. I did need that extra paragraph. Okay. So what this is going to do, it's going to say, okay, I get what you're sending in to me as a full date time to the millisecond, but I'm going to chop that millisecond off by creating my own date value, which is this, right? Okay. So now we've gotten rid of the milliseconds. But if we're going to compare them with what's already in the table, then we're no longer just checking for one value. We're checking for a range of values now. So we have to see if there's anything already in the table between that date and, well, actually greater than or equal to that date time and less than 1 second in the future. You see what I'm saying? Because it could be 9 o'clock on the dot, or it could be 9 o'clock and 14 milliseconds. So we have to check for that. So now we need an inequality here. Okay? So when we're looking up the value, the food date time can be greater than or equal to the date to return. Right? And, next line. Right? Food date time is going to be less than some value. We'll put the value in a minute. I do this a lot, by the way. I know I got to put some stuff in here, but I want to frame this right first with the pound signs and the quotes and all that. Now that it's, and then click off it. Now that it's good, now that I can write what's going in here. And I do need some more space, so I'm going to back up a little bit. Okay, so what's going to be in here? Well, we got to add 1 second to that. One clean actual second, and we'll use date add. So date add s, comma 1, comma, date to return. Okay, you see what I'm doing? Because we chopped it off up here. Now we got to see if anybody falls on that second in the table from 0 milliseconds to 99999 milliseconds. Less than 1 second in the future. Okay? And then the rest of it's all the same thing. Let's give it a try. Save it. Debug compile. Close it. Close it. Open it. Let me get rid of this stuff. Delete, 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 delete. And let's add that meal again. You ready? Click. All right. We're all 509. That's good. Let's check the log table. And there we go. Look at that. You like? You like? Come on. You gotta like. You gotta like. So now these are all clean values to the second. There's no millisecond fractional part on that second there. And you can cleanly check it in the table to make sure that it works. And now that we've updated that function, it will work anytime we use that add to log to add any item to the log. They'll always have clean seconds. That doesn't mean all the ones previously are clean, but anything moving forward will be clean. That also means when we type stuff in, it'll be clean because our before insert event uses proper log date time, right? To get to this, it'll now be right to the second. And if we use our copy item, let's see, copy item uses, copy item's using now. Well, we're going to change this. In the next lesson, one of the things I want to do is when we copy items, like for example, here's the food log. Here, well, let me get rid of this stuff that's down here because I haven't eaten this. And this is my actual data for today, so I'm trying to keep it clean. All right. So if we go to yesterday, for example, right, and I want to copy my yogurt and berries, it's at 11 o'clock. So we're going to go copy item. Burp. Now, if I go back to today, it put it in it right now. What I want to change, and we're going to do this in the next class, is I want this to have the same time. Update the date, but keep yesterday's time. Because the yogurt and berries, I'm going to eat pretty much at the same time every day. Same thing with breakfast, right? And then we'll make some shortcuts for being able to update this stuff. So that's it for today. Now, I also want to add one extra note. This is one of those situations where we're adding that time, looking up values. A, I did this to teach you something about date time values, but B, this is a solution that works fine in a small database like this. Obviously, if we were dealing with, like I've used the Mars rover example before, if we're doing, NASA level programming, enterprise level stuff, where we're checking, stock trades to the millisecond, yeah, there's better solutions you can use involving, custom sort fields or complex indexing rules. You could set up a multi-field index here to prevent two, the exact same time for me. But there's lots of other solutions you could do. This is what I think is a good solution for this database, right? What's the phrase? It's good enough for government work, right? It works. It's a good solution. It's better today than it was yesterday, right? And I think it's a valid solution for what we're trying to do here. So, and I'll stand by that. So was that a cool trick? Did you learn something? Did you learn a little bit about the now function and how access a timestamp will actually store milliseconds in it? And that's why they're difficult to check to see if you got something else at exactly this date time, because you got to tear those milliseconds off of it. And that's why usually when it comes to working with dates and times in Access, I work with inequalities. Unless you're using just solid whole dates. Use the date function. Like for most business things, date is fine, right? You want to know when an order was placed. Oh, it was placed on the 15th. Okay, that's when was it shipped? Okay. Sometimes you want time. Sometimes you might want to know what time of day something came in. But if you're dealing with a little more precision, or if you're trying to do something like this, check inequalities, then you got to do something like this. All right, that's going to do it for today. Hope you learned something. Live long and prosper, my friends. I'll see you tomorrow for part 47. We're up to, wow. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button right now and give me a like. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel, which is completely free. And make sure you click that bell icon and select all to receive notifications whenever I post a new video. Do you need help with your Microsoft Access project? Whether you need a tutor, a consultant, or a developer to build something for you, check out my Access Developer Network. It's a directory I put together personally of Access experts who can help with your project. Visit my website to learn more. Any links or other resources that I mentioned in the video can be found in the description text below the video. Just click on that show more link right there. YouTube's pretty good about hiding that, but it's there. Just look for it. Now, if you have not yet tried my free Access Level 1 course, check it out now. It covers all the basics of Microsoft Access, including building forms, queries, reports, tables, all that stuff. It's over 4 hours long. You can find it on my website or my YouTube channel. I'll include a link below you can click on. And did I mention it's completely free? And if you like Level 1, Level 2 is just $1. That's it. And it's free for members of my YouTube channel at any level. Speaking of memberships, if you're interested in joining my channel, you get all kinds of awesome perks. Silver members get access to all of my extended cut tech help videos, and there's hundreds of them by now. They also get one free beginner class each month, and yes, those are for my full courses. Gold members get the previous perks plus access to download all of the sample databases that I build in my tech help videos. Plus, you get access to my code vault where I keep tons of different functions and all kinds of source code that I use. And gold members get one free expert class every month after completing the beginner series. Platinum members get all of the previous perks, plus they get all of my beginner courses, all of them from every subject. And you get one free advanced or developer class every month after finishing the expert series. And you can become a diamond sponsor and have your name listed on the sponsor page on my website. So that's it. Once again, my name is Richard Rost. Thank you for watching this video brought to you by accesslearningzone.com. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something today. Live long and prosper, my friends. I'll see you next time.